Everybody, welcome back to English 112. This is for our class for Tuesday, the 26th of October. And as I am working my way through your papers, we are in our drama section and we've moved from Oedipus the King, as you know, to Shakespeare, specifically Midsummer Night's Dream. I wanted us to be able to see a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream that was actually done in Shakespeare's reconstructed Globe Theater. I was able to find something for free online. It does have advertisements, unfortunately. If we were live, I would be able to show you the DVD. But still, this will give you a sense of what it might have been like to have been in the Globe Theater. Of course, there have been some modernizations that have been done, but I think you'll still get a nice sense. And Shakespeare's plays are long plays. It's going to take us 3 classes to get through a performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I thought we could begin with the first part today and then continue on with the second part, our next class, and then finally put some resolution in the third part. And as you know, Shakespearean comedies are about love and all of the complications and misunderstandings associated with love. They're very celebratory. There's a good amount of music and dance in them. You'll definitely see that in the production that we're watching. Obviously, they took some modern day liberties in order to connect with their contemporary audience with some of the music and the dance, as you will see. There won't be any death. There can be near deaths or there can be misunderstandings and the assumption that there's death, but in the end, everything will be resolved happily. And that means marriage or the promise of marriage. Now, I had indicated, I believe, last class that A Midsummer Night's Dream is confusing, deliberately so because love is confusing, so that reinforces the theme. We also have a much longer play than what we saw with Oedipus, so we are going to have subplots, and those subplots are all going to be connected to one another and have relevance, including Act 5, which seems to be superfluous. It's basically a play within a play, very common of Shakespeare to actually perform a play within his play, and that Act 5 will give commentary on what we've just seen. Expect humor, a lot of slapstick and physical humor as well, that oftentimes is lost when you're watching or when you're reading a performance. And expect social and political commentary, though it won't necessarily be explicit because, as I indicated, political commentary could be very dangerous during this particular time period. Now, I thought I would just review a little bit of what it is you are going to be watching, and you can see this in the notes below, where first we are introduced to our characters. Theseus and Hippolyta, they happen to be engaged. They are engaged as a result of a conquest in love, that basically Theseus has won Hippolyta in war. She is the queen of the Amazons, known as a very strong female tribe. This is very typical kind of love that was done through either force or some sort of a political advantage. Then we have Hermia and Lysander, and they are dating against Hermia's father's will. And this is an atypical kind of love because a daughter was expected to follow her father's wishes. She was seen as a kind of piece of property, and the father could dispose of her as he wanted, and she dares to defy him. And then we have Helena and Demetrius, another young couple. They previously dated. We're given some backstory about that. And they are no longer dating. Helena is still in love with Demetrius, but he is no longer in love with her. This illustrates how fickle love can be. Worse, he's fallen in love with somebody else, and that somebody else is Hermia. And not only is that bad because she is in love with Demetrius, but it's also bad because Hermia and Helen are, or at least were, best friends, and so they started having these love difficulties. And basically, this sense of unrequited love is something that propels us throughout the play. We're also introduced to a fairy kingdom, so there's a fantasy element where we have Fairy Oberon and Queen Fairy Titania. You'll notice that the same actors who were playing Theseus and Hippolyta are playing Oberon and Titania. Very clever casting choice, I believe, to illustrate the commonalities between these two couples. The fairies are representing a more mature state of love. They are already married and they are bickering. Perhaps that's a commentary about what happens in marriage. This is a kind of controlling love as we see power struggles between the two. We're also introduced to a laborer by the name of Bottom, because he's on the bottom of the social scale, but he also acts like a bottom, an ass. And he and his friends, his cohorts, are rehearsing a play that they are hoping to perform for the king and the queen. And their play happens to be about love, a tragic love. So some of the power struggles that we see going on early on is that Theseus, the father of Hermia, or I should say, King Theseus, the king has, based on Hermia's father's Aegeus's desire, basically told Hermia that she needs to follow her father's will. And Fairy Oberon is basically going to order his servant, if you will, another fairy by the name of Puck, a kind of mischievous fairy, to basically put love juice on his wife's, Fairy Titania's, eyes to distract her so that he can get what he wants. And what does he want? What are they bickering about? It happens to be a child, a changeling child. It happens to be the baby of one of her serving women who died giving birth. So the conflict is over whether or not he is going to get his way, which is what would be traditionally expected in a marriage, that the husband would get his will honored, and that's not what happens. So you can see how Shakespeare is being rather subversive in some ways without even watching the play itself. And then, of course, we need to have complications and mix-ups. So while basically Puck is going to intervene with Titania, he takes it upon himself to also transform that character, Puck, who is a bottom and ass, into, well, donkey. In addition, it turns out that Fairy Oberon decides to intervene with the unrequited love couple, and that's Helena and Demetrius. And what Puck is instructed to do is to take the love juice and to put it on Demetrius's eyes so that he will once again fall in love with Helena. Puck makes a bit of a mistake, spoiler alert here, which we will see as the play progresses. Setting. This play takes place first in Athens. This is not unusual for Shakespeare to put plays in locations other than England to give a sense of an exotic locale. That said, outside of the exotic locale, it may as well be in Britain because it's very British. And Athens is supposed to represent city, order, civilization. And then Hermia and Lysander, the lovers who are basically set on being together, even though her father disagrees, they do what lovers do. They run away together into the woods. The woods are the wilderness that's supposed to represent that which is wild or untamed. And of course, Demetrius, so this is necessary to get all of the characters in the woods. Demetrius follows Hermia into the woods because, if you'll remember, he is trying unsuccessfully to gain Hermia's love. And Helena follows Demetrius, who's following Hermia. And of course, Helena is hoping that she can get Demetrius back the way she used to have him. And Bottom and his cohorts decide they need a little bit of privacy, so they are going to rehearse their play in the woods. So basically, we've got all of our major characters in the woods, wilderness, untamed, without the laws of man or reason or civilization. And you'll see that set change, which they do rather simply with just a set of curtains. The props are rather minimal, as opposed to what we see with contemporary dramas. We'll see with something like Raisin in the Sun, but the costumes are quite elaborate. So again, this is approximately 40 minutes or so to see part 1 out of 3 parts of the Globe on Screens 2014 performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And you can see the link is included below in our notes. Again, I apologize for the advertisements, but I'm grateful that there's a free version somewhere online that we can watch. And for today's attendance question, and that'll be due on Wednesday, the 27th of October, 10 a.m. But again, if you need additional time, let me know. Thus far, based on your viewing of that first part of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which actor's performance did you like the best? So now we're talking about acting. We're not necessarily talking about the characters themselves. Which actor's performance did you like the best in the 2014 Shakespeare on Screen adaptation, and why? I hope you're well, I'm well, and enjoy the first part of A Midsummer Night's Dream.